Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is March the 16th, 2018. Strong hand, long-term thinking, buy and hold. All right. We've got some great guests here. Andy Hoffman, Cory from the World Crypto Network. You know them. They've been on this show before. But we also have Zack Voell. Oh, yeah. He's in the freaking house, too. And he was like just loving it when I was going crazy in that intro there. I saw him smiling there. All right, dudes. Everyone, always check out the notes section below. You can see these guys' links, see what they're all about. We got a lot to talk about. I'm pumped. I'm in Uruguay, and I want to give thanks to these guys because it was very short notice, this show. I'm on the move here in Uruguay. It's very hard to coordinate all this stuff. Next week, I'll be back in Baltimore. Remember, we do a show here every week for This Week in Bitcoin. It'll be a lot calmer next week. So speaking of this, so it's been a crazy week. I started in Africa. Now I'm in South America. It's been a crazy week for Bitcoin, too, because we've had panic. We've had veterans with the strong hands. We've had newbies just saying it's the end of the world. Andy Hoffman, what's your take on This Week in Bitcoin?
Right. Well, obviously, I'm pretty vocal on my opinions lately. And the more that there's panics, the more that I'm out there in the public saying the same thing, which is there's nothing wrong. In fact, from the beginning, and yes, of course, we had to have a crash at some point with this historic pump, which was driven principally by speculation on altcoins. Of course, we had to have a correction at some point. I mean, we were $5,000 in November, and then we were at $20,000 a month later. But when you look at the big picture of things, I've been in markets for almost 30 years. I've never seen a bear market based on nothing. I mean, the underlying asset, I mean, as we speak today, like you said, the Lightning Network was launched today. I mean, you look, I just did a transaction. I was helping someone set up their Trezor Model T, and it, gets done in a minute. And the fees are nothing, and the adoption is going up. And there's, for all the quote FUD that's out there, there's really nothing. I mean, the things they talk about these days are a joke. When the other day they say, well, the SEC is going to regulate crypto exchanges. I'm like, well, good. That's something that I want. I don't use the crypto exchanges for more than a minute anyway. And why wouldn't you want them regulated? That's not bad for Bitcoin. The same goes for if they say, well, I guess the Mt. Gox whale is a bigger issue because someone is indiscriminately selling in a reckless way. But of course, that's a non-fundamental reason. And of course, it's just going to pop right back. And as it seems to be coming out today that it's over. And if that's the case, we'll be back up at $11,000 in heartbeat.
All right. So remember, $11,000 in a heartbeat. If it isn't in the heartbeat, who cares? We still have one Bitcoin, people. You just got to have one Bitcoin. Who cares what it's worth in fiat? Value your wealth in Bitcoin. Zach, what do you think about Lightning Network? That's the big news. That's actually a fundamental, awesome factor. But it doesn't seem like the markets really care about fundamentals. What's your take, Zach?
Well, I don't know if I can speak to the fact that markets don't care about fundamentals necessarily. I agree with Andy that if you step back for a moment and look at the bear market, there is no underlying, or I guess are no underlying fundamentals that could justify the bear market, besides just maybe a necessary, predictable correction from all the speculation we saw over the last 6 months or so, or longer, I guess. Lightning Network responds to that. I'm super pumped about it. And I think, at least in a few people that I've conversed about Lightning with, the most common misconception is that Lightning is strictly a Bitcoin thing. Whereas obviously Lightning is a protocol or cryptocurrency agnostic protocol. You can run it on anything. It doesn't matter. And I think the reason mainly why the market may not be responding with like boatloads of enthusiasm is because it's, and I say this, well, Lightning may be a little bit before its time, but not in a bad way. Pierre and Michael and I and a couple of the guys were tweeting about the fact that Lightning is setting up infrastructure for the Bitcoin world ecosystem that we're looking forward to. So it may not be used by everyone everywhere right now, but that's fine because it's being tested right now. It just hit mainnet, and its use will be proven, and then the demand for it to be used will come. So I'm not really concerned at all by people not losing their minds over being super excited about it. There are people who are thrilled about it. I'm thrilled about it. I love Lightning. It's an awesome development, but I don't really take much from a more tempered reaction overall, I guess, to it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it's still very experimental at this point. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
And so people should be enthusiastic that it's on the main net. But I mean, mainstream wise, the mainstream cryptocurrency people, they don't notice yet. It's not noticeable yet. When do you think it will be really noticeable? I tell people 2019, just be patient. Let this, be patient with it. It's not going to solve everyone's problems. It's not going to be the miracle right away, but it's going to be there. People are working on it, and I think in 2019 we're going to see a big noticeable effect. How about you, Zach? What do you think? That long, or longer than that? Shorter?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I might give it a little bit longer than 2019, but I mean, things happen in this space much more quickly than a whole bunch of others, a whole bunch of other potentially comparable technological spaces. So it's hard to give a specific timeline. I think, I don't know. It really just depends on how quickly the usability of running a Lightning node and processing a Lightning transaction and having merchants and consumers exchange Bitcoin via Lightning, how usable that interface can be to a common person. The analogy obviously most commonly given is sending an email or surfing the web or something like that. And right now, Lightning is very much only accessible by people with a high degree of technological literacy. So that's the barrier to it sort of being much more widely adopted. And what date that barrier will start to come down, I'm not really sure. But by like 2020, 2021 or something, within the next 3 to 5 years, yeah, we'll looking back to right now, we'll see a huge difference for sure.
Strong hand, people. Be patient and use that strong hand to pound that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel, spread the word, check out the link section to see what these guys are all about. And Cory, welcome. What do you think about all of this? Also, Bitcoin being down in fiat, all the altcoins are all down in fiat too, but we don't seem to be hearing about that very much. What's your take on this week in Bitcoin?
Well, let me comment on Lightning really quickly. Once you come to the realization that on-chain scaling isn't feasible, the next realization you come to is that Lightning is the best solution that we have. And then when you look towards projects like Ethereum and even Neo, they're copying Lightning in their own sidechain projects. So I think that speaks volumes. Overall, the price being down isn't a big deal. The price is really kind of irrelevant to me, other than the fact that I have to live on Bitcoin. So when it's down, it hurts a little, but in general, it's not a big deal, and we'll see a recovery. When, I don't know, but when is not really a concern for me.
Okay, value your wealth in Bitcoin, people. Value your wealth in Bitcoin. Yes.
And also, again, the thing with Lightning is, I would guess that 90% of all the transactions right now in Bitcoin are speculation, meaning people buying, either they're long-term hodlers or they're short-term traders, and therefore, even if Lightning was working full out right now, it wouldn't be that big of a difference. The bigger difference in network speed, of course, is SegWit, and the fact that the exchanges, which are the vast majority of transactions being sent, because the vast majority of transactions are trades, are using SegWit now. And what do you know? Things are much faster. So Lightning is a whole nother world of when people actually use it transactionally, but that's not going to happen really until the price is properly valued at something much, much higher, and it's a real asset class that is being recognized and people are willing to part with it. And just basically as acceptance that the world is changing to a digital one moves on. Because right now, all these things are just simply proving that Bitcoin can do anything and will do anything, and you shouldn't bet against it. But it's not like people are using Bitcoin to spend right now. That's the whole point. It's a store of value first, and down the road, as Zack is saying, which may be a lot sooner than we think, but maybe it's a little longer, it'll be a transactional currency amongst many other digital transactional currencies, and it'll be the reserve crypto transactional currency.
World reserve cryptocurrency, people. It's a newfangled savings account right now. For those of you who have the patience to be able to save there, this week in Bitcoin, wow, I've seen a lot of impulsive people out there. Oh, I got to sell now. Oh my God. I'm getting
and again, and the whole thing that's so silly is it's so freaking obvious that this was this Mt. Gox guy. I mean, I'm not sure. Again, there's nothing more exciting to an investor and a panicked investor on top of that, and certainly to a trader, to see the price lower on an obviously non-fundamental reason. Because we in the past, we say as veterans, we've been around so many of these price crashes before, but most of them were based on a genuine fear. It may have been an overblown fear, but a genuine fear. Whereas there's none now. I mean, there's not a day that I wake up saying, oh, I wonder if there's going to be an issue with the splitting the network and hard forks and governments. I mean, none of that stuff is even in my mind anymore. And, the Mt. Gox bear whale is the reason. I mean, again, it exacerbated a decline that would have happened anyway. But the fact that he started selling on the top and stopped selling at the bottom, and then on top of that, there was a little left over, and sure enough, we've seen like 7 or 8 days in a row this dump, and at the same time of day, and price knocked down for a non-fundamental reason. It'll go right back up because again, I mean, it's so great to be in this thing. It's frustrating to see the price go down, but when I know it's going down and there's a non-fundamental reason that's behind it, it's nothing at all. People panicking now are absolutely nuts. What they should be panicking in, though, is if they own big positions in altcoins. And yes, if the whole sector comes back, the altcoins can do fine. But I think they were exposed for what they are, for the most part, big money grabs that were leeching onto Bitcoin and to Ethereum. And everyone's looking at them as emperors with no clothes and going, yeah, but you guys don't do anything. Why should we value it billions of dollars? And that's why they're going to have to discern themselves, or else they're going to go the way of the Bitcoin forks, the B diamonds and the B golds, because everyone will realize they don't do anything.
Panel, any thoughts on what Andy just said, or what's been going around here?
Yeah, I want to go ahead.
I was just going to chime in to agree with something you said earlier, though. Like, I mean, speaking on the price developments and whether there's fundamental reasons justifying the downturn and that sort of thing. Like Cory said, and I've had a couple short pieces published on this. Everybody tweets about it all the time. To me, people say the price doesn't matter, but it genuinely doesn't matter. Like all of these insane Picasso TA charts that fill my Twitter feed day in and day out. Like I just sort of read them like, and if that's your thing, to anyone listening or anyone on the panel, like on no hard feelings, everyone has their place in the space. But I just sort of look at them like the comics in the newspaper or what have you. It honestly doesn't matter to me. Like Andy said, we've seen crashes before. I sort of got into it at the beginning of 2014, so maybe less of a veteran than other people on this call, but it's nothing we haven't seen before and many times over. And like you said, Adam, strong hands, hodl, that's all you need really. Day to day, week to week, even month to month price changes, literally nothing could matter less than that. Focusing on Lightning, focusing on RSK, focusing on other technological developments and adoption. That's literally all that I give a shit about, that I care about.
You know what? You made a great point there, a funny point. The TA charts, they are comics. That is great. I love that. That is really awesome. Just treat it as who cares. Don't worry about it from day to day, people. And it's, you can have the best TA in the world, but then some news story comes out, it dumps or it pumps or whatever. They're just comics for me now. Very good point. Pound that like button, people. Cory, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. So if you go back and you look at the pump in late 2013 to over $1,000, it was determined that was mainly because of the Willy bot that pushed the price up, right? So it was one person that caused that big of a price spike. Now we have another situation where it seems as though one person heavily contributed to the price decline. Let me ask Andy this. Andy, what do you think that particularly says about Bitcoin's anti-fragility, and does Bitcoin's anti-fragility spill over to the financial end?
Well, I think the biggest issue with Bitcoin in general, as far as trading, is that it's just thinly traded, and people want to believe that there's like this gargantuan trading community because you see so many trades go on, most of which are like tiny, bot type trades. But the fact is, there's only a couple of million available for sale at any given time, and maybe a tiny bit more if you add the leverage that's in there, but not much. So it doesn't take much. If one person has to sell, it can go down a lot, just like, and same thing going up. I mean, you can run up a couple of $1,000s just because a whale or two says that I want to buy a piece. And the fact is that until there's a lot more volume, a lot more players in the system, it's going to be volatile. It has nothing to do with the fact, it's not because Bitcoin's like fortunes are changing every day. It's because it's thin. And the more people that come in, the higher the price and the less volatility you'll get. And, it won't matter. I don't think it has any impact at all on the financial system at large. The big picture is it's going to be replacing a lot of the financial system. But right now, it's a curiosity to most of the legacy financial system. Only the very smart people are paying attention to it. And of course, traders who are looking for volatility. But I think in general, anti-fragility, look, think about it. Think of how many horrible crashes we've had. Last year, we went up 20 times and still there were 35% crashes. Can you imagine? The Dow hasn't had a 35% crash in like 20 years. And we had 6 last year when we went up by 20 times. So it's just a thin market, that's all. And it keeps coming back. And every time it goes down like this, it keeps coming back. And that's why Adam, he's talking about the TA, and no one is, talks about TA more than me, how silly it is. Think about what those charts have said just in the last couple of weeks alone. Went to 6,000. Every TA thing was saying it's going to zero. Then it went to 12,000. Oh, it's going to go to all time. Oh, wait, it's going to go to zero. Oh, wait, no, because that's what charts do when you have a thin market where big news can impact it. And the whole point, I'll just finish on TA, is that the whole concept of technical analysis is that it supposedly understands, it takes in all of the cumulative beliefs of the entire market. Right? The problem is that when there's inside information or manipulation, as you see like in the gold market, or where there's giant events that can just completely change things like you see in the thin Bitcoin market, it's completely useless. So please, fundamentals only, and just hodl, whatever, or Adam likes hold, and you'll do just fine.
So I guess there's no paid group I can join, Andy, where you teach me all your TA tips and tricks.
Buy and hold.
There's your free advice, people. Long-term thinking. It's a lot cheaper than getting there are some great TA people out there, but it seems like when things were going great, it seemed like everybody was everybody was an expert. Actually, it still seems like everyone's an expert. People are telling me, Adam, why didn't you tell people to sell at the top? I sold at the top and I just bought back. Yeah, sure you did. Anonymous troll.
Let me just throw in one more thing, because if people remember, anyone who's back during the .com era, okay, I had a whole bunch of friends who were professionals. I was on Wall Street at the time, but I had people, they were accountants, they had all these kind of jobs that had nothing to do with stocks, and they were leaving their jobs to become day traders. I mean, if anyone remembers this time. And for a while, they did great. They all made money. And the reason being, because it's a bull market. It is the simplest thing to be a trader in a bull market. You buy something, you sell it, you buy something else. Everything goes up. And no one can short. No one even knows how to short. Most people don't even have margin accounts. They're inherently bullish. They wouldn't even dream of shorting. But once it becomes a bear market or a bear trend, everyone gets wrecked. And it's exactly what happened this time around. And the same thing goes for technical analysis. If you are inherently biased on one side, you're going to get killed. And the worst thing to do is to try to use technical analysis in a bear market when you don't have the proper tools.
And another thing, traders, all you genius traders out there in the United States of America, you starting to notice those tax articles that are coming out, people? telling you about how you have to pay your taxes now and how fun and not so easy that's going to be? I told you. You tried to complicate your lives. It's not that simple. The government wants their piece. It's a complex. And hey, you guys are gonna have to deal with it. Talk to H&R Block or whoever, man. Who knows if they even know what's going on. All right. Any more thoughts on this, Cory? You had anything else to say?
Well, on the concept of Bitcoin price in general, you're really trying to take an intangible and put a price on it. Fundamentally, if you were to look at like email is a priceless technology, just like Bitcoin is a priceless technology. So fundamentally, what you're doing is trying to take priceless and divide it by 21 million. So good luck with that. No matter what the price of Bitcoin is, really the best reflection would be the amount of the overall market cap and the amount of actual dollars flowing from the old system into the new system. So in general, like the price is intangible, and therefore it really shouldn't bother anybody what it is at any given time. 1
Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. It always does. All right, Cory, you had some news to share here. Tell us. Everyone's interested.
Oh, well, not so much news as it is. I wanted to talk about what's going on with the World Crypto Network. Over the past 6 or 7 months, we've been really stepping it up and trying to build it out to what I believe will be the largest cryptocurrency media network in the world. Most people think it's just a YouTube channel, but really at this point, I think we have 5 YouTube channels and 3 separate audio podcasts that all get funneled through the World Crypto Network's iTunes stream, audio podcasting stream. So the numbers are great. We're doing about 100,000 streams per week, which finally exceeded the number of YouTube views we're getting. So things are going really well for World Crypto Network. And you're going to see a lot of big things in the months to come.
Awesome. I am proud to be associated with this. Cory is the behind the scenes dude over there. So it's great to bring him in front of the camera and so all of you can see it. And thank you for that update. Everybody get pumped, man. There's a lot of things you guys don't know about that are going on. And I am very excited about what we've been doing for the last few months here.
And Cory, of course, is choreographing our Denver event on April 25th that you and I and Cory and Mike Krieger and Jack Mellers and Vortex will be participating in. Go to my website, to Boulder Meetup's website, to Adam's website, and sign up and get your tickets.
And yes, the Denver thing is going to be freaking awesome, dudes. And I've never hung out in Denver before, so I'm going to be there for a week. So it'll be awesome to meet everyone. But we just got a super chat, and people who are watching this live, feel free to do the super chat. The great Sabuka, this dude has his own channel too, Sabuka. He's a good guy, a smart guy. He says, been busy with other projects outside Bitcoin. Good listening to a variety of people. Keep the content going, Adam and fellas. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And as you can see, Cory is putting all sorts of awesome content together for us and coordinating things behind the scenes. Hey, Zach, you've got some news too, or what's a story that I haven't talked about today? I know you've got all sorts of stories going
on. I don't know. There's you want to go with some lighter news here? There's 2 stories that I think sort of made me chuckle. Well, I'm sure y'all have seen pictures before at Coin Center. They keep that board up of days since the last incident. And 2 stories that could qualify as incidents in the Bitcoin space are, I guess, one in Florida. Guy's facing felony charges for mining Bitcoin at his office. He works at the Florida Department of Citrus. And plugged in a couple miners. I think it started as 1, and then things sort of got out of control. And now I think his name is Matt. Matt's not doing so well down there in Florida. And then the second piece of news that made me laugh is, so one of my personal pet peeves is when people just the so-called blockchain technologists in the space, and you have to sort of at some point feel bad for everything else that is Bitcoin, because obviously chains of blocks is just one part of the whole network, the whole scheme that we're building here. The P2P protocol, encryption, everything else, blockchains are just one of it. But there was an editorial in the Washington Post today, or yesterday, I think, about how one person proposed using blockchain technology to keep Assad accountable for his propaganda and war crimes and all these sorts of things. I don't know. So there's some news for you.
It's just everyone says the word blockchain for everything. It solves everything. It'll solve the crisis in Syria. It's crazy.
I got a news item to bring up.
Yes, Andy.
Shall I? Not necessarily a news item, but I want people to direct. It's really, I mean, I put out a post today on Steam, but it's not really me. It's this amazing article. It's on Medium. Too bad that he didn't use Steam and get the ability to earn some Bitcoin, by a guy named Crypto Herpes Cat.
What a name! Horrible name. Horrible.
Yes,
name.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Disgusting.
So you could just go to my blog, but it's called BCH Headed Toward the Abyss, and it basically it talks. I mean, I've been saying from the beginning that Bcash has become a Ponzi scheme that has to be supported continually. And this goes through every aspect of it. I mean, certainly when I had another podcast with Rocky Palumbo yesterday, who has great information about this. This is a very, very shaky scam that's going on, and they better hope that the market, takes all boats higher, because I think that there's going to be a lot. Certainly, compared to the price of Bitcoin, I think Bcash is has already passed its peak of relevancy, and it has the potential for very bad things to happen.
Dude, look who's in the house. It's BTC Benny. Shocking guest appears out of the blue.
Wow.
I have hidden things going on all over the place.
Man.
BTC Benny, what's up, dude?
Oh, not too much. Good to see you guys. Sorry that I'm late to the party here. I just I'm at the office and was able to jump on. So I just wanted to jump in the Bcash hate train.
Well, you see, we needed some international flavor. We have 3 guys in the Mountain Time Zone right now, which is really crazy. Yeah, BTC Benny, I'm going to say something about Bcash. I want to hear everybody's opinion on the Bcash here. BTC Benny, what do you think about Bcash in the light that Andy just talked about it in there?
Andy, can you just, sorry, I caught the tail end of what you were saying, how it was basically reaching the end of its relevance. I mean, I didn't catch the beginning, but I agree. So can you just recap what you said?
Well, it's certain that there's an article by a guy in Medium called Crypto Herpes Cat, which I highlighted today.
I just read that.
Yeah, and it's, so you know what I'm talking about. I mean, basically, to me, when the word Ponzi scheme is something that gets thrown out whenever something, well, like, and the word bubble, whenever something's going up that you don't like, you call it a bubble, or you don't understand it, so you call it a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is truly something that has to continually be supported more and more by more and more money for it to survive. And this story explains exactly what the situation is. It needs Roger Ver to continue to get people to buy something that's not working. He needs Jihan Wu to continue to sell products for Bcash that he doesn't want to do anymore, and to spam the mempool that he doesn't have the time and the money to do anymore. And so as more and more people realize that Bcash does not have a use case, and that it's not Satoshi's vision, that it literally is no better than any of the other cryptos out there, except that it's much worse because it doesn't have SegWit. You look at that gaping 0.11 ratio, which is so much higher than all of the other altcoins relative to Bitcoin, and you realize that this is a disaster in the making, and a well-deserved disaster in the making. This thing was brought out completely on a ad hoc base. It was like, oh no, they're gonna get SegWit in, let's just do a fork, and they just did it, and they had no idea what they were going to get into, and they used Roger and Jihan's pull and money to get it going in the early stages, and now the scam is up, and I think that the ratio to Bitcoin is going to fall precipitously for some time.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the chart, it's just like this tapering kind of. It's not pretty looking, and Yeah, it's interesting, like that article you're talking about. They're talking about how a lot of the Bcash that has been mined, it's going into these wallets that it just never moves. It's never gets spent, never gets put on the market, meaning that some of the miners are essentially more or less just propping it up by keeping that off of the market and keeping it artificially scarce. And so at what point can you be running a mining operation and putting significant amounts of hash power towards the Bitcoin Cash chain and not reaping any rewards, not taking that money and paying for your expenses? And especially with the prices of, with the general crypto markets going down, how long can you keep that up before you're like, well,
put it this way. We think that the bear whale is a big deal because what do you have, like 150,000 Bitcoin, which is like less than 1%. The amount of Bcash that these guys are holding is way more than the percentage that the bear whale has in Bitcoin, except that Bcash is not a good product and it's much less liquid. So if there was ever a hint that a single Bcash was leaking out of that wallet and people started to suspect, like the Japan Mt. Gox whale, that they were selling, wait do you see how fast and far that Bcash will fall. And if the markets do continue to weaken and they are forced to sell, this will be the most spectacular collapse in crypto history.
Well, and people have alarms set up for a lot of those accounts, right? As soon as money starts to move out of those specific wallets, then major traders that are speculating on that particular asset are bound to start probably panicking and piling out.
All right, I want to hear Zach. I haven't heard your opinion on Bcash before because you haven't been on the show before. So I want to. What are your thoughts on all this?
So I'm pretty strongly hostile to scammers, but I'm pretty agnostic as far as forks go, to be honest. Like, I think, like, I mean, all of us right now could go create our own fork of Bitcoin for whatever random reason we wanted to. And I think for like Bitcoin Pizza, Bitcoin God, Bitcoin Platinum, all those nonsense forks, like you have every right to fork whenever you want. I don't really give a shit. But if you try and say that your fork is Bitcoin, and then you try and run smear campaigns against people who are running the original chain and all of that other nonsense, then that becomes a you problem. And it's hard to separate that from the fork that you made. So it also sort of becomes a fork problem. Now, like I have good friends who own Bitcoin Cash and like Bitcash or Bcash or whatever you want to call it more than Bitcoin. And we're friends. Like, it's 2018. Bitcoiners can be friends with Bcashers. It's okay. But I hate scammers. And so almost by default, hate Bitcoin Cash. But at the same time, I'm sort of agnostic. And that's part of the beauty of the space. Like, you can fork whenever you want, create a new coin. No one has to care. No one likely will care, probably, but you can do it whenever you want.
So now you're saying, do you think what's coming out now, what Andy is talking about is that the end of the road is near for Bcash, that it's a scam. Do you agree with that? I mean, I've got a strong opinion, but I'm going to share it after Cory speaks. But do you think this is the end of the world, Zach? The end of the road for it? Is it really a scam? Is that too harsh of a word? I think it's a harsh.
I would say Roger is definitely a scam. Like I'll just period, hard stop there. Whether Bcash is a scam sort of depend, not to get like too technical or splitting hairs here, but it sort of depends on what you mean by a scam. Like, it's a usable medium of exchange. You can buy and sell things with it, day trade it if you want. Depends on how you view it. Whether it's the end of the road, I think we still have a few pumps left. Not a huge trader really at all myself, and I sort of dumped my Bcash as soon as the fork happened, or I guess shortly after. But end of the road, I would say probably not, but it's not. I would definitely say we're on a hard trend here to it fading into irrelevance. But I don't know when that will happen. Yeah.
All right. So now Cory is not a fan of forks. I'll just preface that. You take it away, Cory. Is this the end of the road? Is this the end of the road for Bcash?
No, unfortunately, coins don't die. They just become like the Walking Dead, and they just survive forever. We have what 2,000 plus altcoins. 99% of them are zombie coins, if you ask me. The problem I have with forks is basically, yes, Bitcoin is open source and you can fork it at will. However, I can also take a stack of $20 bills and photocopy them, cut them up, and try to get people to buy them from me at a discount. And then maybe it'll flood the the circulating supply, which is what it does. And basically, you end up with people who pre-mined a whole bunch of coins for themselves. And the reason that nobody mines that is because they're taking bribe money in the form of these fork coins. They're saying, here, you can have some of these coins. Just don't look at the fact that we took a whole bunch for ourselves and got a get-rich-quick scheme. So fork coins will die with me. They'll stay in my wallets forever. I'll never cash them out. I feel it does more harm to the ecosystem. But I'm going to go ahead and contradict myself real quick and say that thankfully Bitcoin's anti-fragility will tolerate this stuff. It'll just annoy the hell out of me in the process.
Okay. So you never cashed your Bcash then? You never dealt? It's sitting somewhere. Wait, you're on mute.
I dumped it the day it came out because I didn't really realize the implications at the time. But no more.
Okay, no more. Well, I'm gonna say something about this Bcash thing. I do not think it is the end of the road whatsoever, at all. I wouldn't call it a scam either. If it's a scam, then every altcoin's a scam. Sure, it's centralized. There's some big names behind it. That's common with a lot of these coins out there. Now, I don't like that they try to pretend to be the real Bitcoin. They're not the real, they're Bcash, and I'll call them Bcash. There's a guy out there in Twitter, I'm not going to name his name. He's like, if you call it Bcash now, he just drops you as he doesn't follow you anymore. He blocks you. I mean, it's ridiculous. You gotta, you got to differentiate. So many people get confused between Bitcoin and Bcash when you call Bcash by a name that's similar to Bitcoin. So it's easy, and I call all the forks B something, B gold, B diamond, B platinum, whatever. But going back, the 80%ers out there, they will buy anything. This is all cyclical. If there's some technical problem with Bcash, they'll just fork it because it's centralized. King of the Trolls has a lot of money. He'll keep marketing it. People fall for it. I read Twitter every single day. There are huge fans of Bcash out there. It's not the end of the road of it. Crypto herpes is the guy that's right. It might have herpes. It's going to stay alive. It can still do what it's going to do. It's going to pump again one day. And I don't like using the word scam because it's definitely not BitConnect. It's not on that BitConnect type of level. So my whole policy, as people familiar with the channel are, I don't even use them. I barely use the word
this way, Adam, to keep this brief, I'm not going to go further other than to say, no, I don't think it's going to zero, but I would say that it has peaked in relevance and that as a percentage of Bitcoin, it has nowhere to go but down over time.
Well, that's a lot. If people cared about fundamentals, but they don't care about fundamentals.
No, but I'm saying that's what I strongly believe will happen. I think it's going to break the 0.045 low at some point in the future and keep going down.
Now, I think it's possible that, and this will be the, I'll ask everyone this question. I think that it could break that low again, but it'll go higher than it is now. It might go low, but it'll come back. They know how to market it over there. 80%ers will buy anything. We're going to be in a bull altcoin market eventually again, whether it be this year, 2019, 2020, whenever. It's just, I kind of agree with these things never die. And this one is so big that it can easily never discount these coins. People have said Dash is dead before, and Dash comes back. They all come back. So, okay, well, we'll go around in a circle here. Benny, do you think it's going to go higher or lower, or will it attain all-time lows again? What's your opinion?
I don't think it will again attain all-time highs when it comes to price in Bitcoin. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think at some point it'll hit new lows again when priced in Bitcoin. But I mean, like we're talking about, Andy even said, like, none of these coins that go to zero, right? Like you look at BitConnect coin and it's still worth $2. It was literally a token specifically to hold up a Ponzi scheme, and it still has some semblance of value. So, I mean, yeah, like, and okay, and people can, you can, if you want to use Bcash because you agree with how they scale it, then yeah, go nuts. That's fine. But yeah, I don't think that. I think that they've done more harm than good by trying to take that name, because again, where I work, people come in day after day and they're showing me their wallet. No, I bought Bitcoin. No, you didn't. That's the bitcoin.com wallet. I'm sorry, you hit receive and that's your Bcash wallet, and so you've sent it to the wrong place, and people get mad. So I think that kind of stuff does more harm than good. I honestly feel that if they were to, at this point, just go with the name Bcash, maybe it would create less animosity between everybody. But also, they by initially coming out and saying that we are called Bitcoin Cash from the get-go, they already said we are not Bitcoin. Right? Like it's already cemented in their mind that you can't say we're called Bitcoin Cash and then start, 5, 6, 7 months in, start being like, well, no, but actually we're Bitcoin. I know we said we're Bitcoin Cash, but actually, no, it's real Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin. Nobody's going to pivot and start saying that now other than fanatics, right? So yeah, no, I think relevance will start to dissipate. But I mean, it'll keep kicking around. It's going to do its thing. There's going to be pumps, as always. If people are looking to trade it, you could always just buy it when it's hitting some Bitcoin lows and then sit around to the next pump. And as soon as it pumps 30% in a day, dump it. I don't know. Like I'm not much of a trader myself. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to just continue its trajectory.
Isn't it great that the price has been crashing and we're sitting there talking about Bcash and no one cares about? That's how unconcerned we are as a group about Bitcoin right now.
Wait, what's crashing now? The price?
No, the fact that the price has been down and we're supposed to be all worried about it, but yet we're talking about Bcash right now, which isn't even really doing anything because none of us are worried about Bitcoin.
No, none of us are worried about Bitcoin. I'm gonna go back to Benny because he didn't give his. Well, he wasn't here for the opening. I'm gonna ask him something in a second. But Zach, what do you? Could Bitcoin could Bcash? Is it only going lower, or does it have a chance to ever get an all-time high again? I don't know. In terms of in terms of Bitcoin, not in dollar price.
Yeah, we don't care about dollars.
No, we don't.
I think so. In many regards, even though like the underlying technicals are in many ways vastly different, Bitcoin Cash right now shares a lot of the same like situational aspects as Bitcoin in 2012, maybe even 2013, early 2013 at least. Whereas in the regards that they're processing a very low amount of transactions, it's a very illiquid market, especially compared to Bitcoin. And they could still hit new all-time highs, even in terms of Bitcoin. But eventually their blocks will start filling up and they'll hit the same technical problems, just like every new altcoin will, that Bitcoin has been facing over the past 2 years or so. And they'll need to begin to scale more, and they'll realize, oh, maybe larger blocks weren't actually the silver bullet that fixed everything we hated about Bitcoin. And then at that point, they'll still start going down. That's why I said, like, right now, I don't think Bitcoin Cash is going to zero. I think they have a few years left, maybe not so, a few years even, but at least a year. And yeah, we'll see a few more pumps. So that's a really all over the place, wishy-washy answer. Bottom line, I have no idea, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some new all-time highs.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of talking about Bcash also, but hey, it's in the news. People are, there's some herpes dude talking about it, so yeah, we got to talk about it all. What a name! All right, Cory, Any last thing about Bcash in terms of the price? Could it get an all-time high in terms of, or is it? Yeah, say.
It's hard to say. Basically, it's asking, can it outrace Bitcoin in the next pump? And I don't think it can. I talk to people about Bitcoin and altcoins and their relationship to each other. And a lot of times, I don't know if they're crazy or if I'm crazy, but I'm a complete and total maximalist, but I love altcoins at the same time. And the reason that I can justify that is because when you're talking about Bitcoin, what you're talking about is censorship resistant money. You're talking about immutability. You're talking about decentralization. You're not talking about any of those things when you talk altcoins. They are a completely and totally different beast that really kind of shocks me that they're in the same conversation as Bitcoin, other than Bitcoin is the pass-through mechanism to get to them, right? So I think once you recognize that, you realize that they are nothing more than speculative assets that will probably behave very similarly to how many of the dot-coms behaved during the dot-com bubble. I see products and coins coming out that, hey, I can see a real-world use for that a decade from now when everyone's already using Bitcoin. But so many of these concepts that are coming out, they're so far away from what the principles of Bitcoin are that they really shouldn't even be discussed in the same conversation.
It's so centralized, Bcash. It's so sad, but people don't care. Whatever.
Adam, it's like you're saying yesterday about people don't know the difference between Netscape and email back then. And the thing is that it really is remarkable because forgetting even dominance in general, the fact is, like, let's say this Mt. Gox whale decides to sell a few hundred coins and Bitcoin falls, and instantaneously every cryptocurrency falls as if they all are one entity. And then if Bitcoin has a surge this morning, they all surge back. Like, it's amazing that this far into the game, especially after all we've just learned, that there's still so many algorithms and traders that actually believe that the fortunes of every one of these things is equal, and that anytime Bitcoin goes up or down, that means it's equally good or bad for everything else in this universe, most of which, and I say most, like 99% of which, literally doesn't do anything. It does what Cory says. They are speculative assets. Most of them are pump and dump money grabs. A handful of them actually have use cases, which may or may not play out. But that's something that's going to be one of the next big themes. I hope it's this year that people start to discern a little more the difference between Bitcoin, and not just Bitcoin altcoins, but crappy altcoins and the crappiest altcoins.
I don't think this is the year that people are going to discern. I mean, it's still very hard for people. At the beginning of the show, we were talking about how Lightning Network is something that's so complex now that regular users cannot use it. Well, the thing is, most people out there, cryptocurrency or just sending a Bitcoin is too hard for most people. It's too complex. It hasn't had its Netscape simplification moment where it's intimidating, these long addresses. So no, I think there's still going to be a lot of confusion out there, and we'll see. It's fun. I mean, if you're a holder of Bitcoin, it's a big show to watch, to see the confusion of the 80% out there. And I hope people learn. I do hope people learn, but I mean, some people are going to refuse to learn. I want to quickly say, as we're reaching, thank you, Ken Bozak. He sent $4.20 in the super chat. He's awesome. And Vention Migtal just sent $6 in the super chat. He's awesome. He says Quark is going to the moon. I heard it on Webbot. And that is a hilarious joke.
Ken sent $4.20. That's a very random amount.
Yeah, very random. Ken's part there. Yeah, he's obviously implying something that Adam Meister does not do, because Adam Meister's got the healthy lifestyle. Pound that like button, people. Seriously, pound it if you 420, and pound it if you run 4.2 miles a day. I ran 5 earlier. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up real quick, but I wanted to quickly ask Benny, BTC Benny. He's BTC Sessions. Check out his channel. Obviously, he's awesome. What this week has been filled with, I would just call it like newbies talking a big game, saying that, oh, you should have sold, or It's never. I feel the people who bought at 19,000 are so foolish. And I pointed out that, I've been around where I remember people were saying, "Oh, you bought at the 1100 high. You were so foolish." And now you look back at that and you see the people who bought at the 1100 high, they got quite a great deal. So what have your thoughts been this week with the big talk from the newbies?
I've been anticipating this to be coming for quite some time. I mean, given the year that we had last year, everybody that was very anti-crypto in general or anti-Bitcoin, the whole year they're yelling, bubble, bubble, get out. Why, don't put your money into this crap. And that's also what I heard the entire first couple of years that I was in Bitcoin. So I got interested in and bought my first Bitcoin in early 2014. And that was, basically at the beginning of the bear market. But I did enough reading to understand that it was just irrational markets and that Mt. Gox was not Bitcoin and to understand the difference. But, I had people the entire time telling me that I'm an idiot but I kept, I bought all the way down when it reached the worst point when Mike Hearn quit and said it was a failed experiment and it was like $200. I mean, I was looking at it going, nothing fundamentally has changed here. Nothing has changed. It's just sentiment of the people around it. And so I see the same cycles starting to rear their heads. But this time, instead of, it bottoming out and being in the hundreds of dollars, it's in the thousands of dollars. And it's going to continue to do this, right? It'll come another time, whether it's this year or whether it takes a couple years to get back there. There's going to come a time where, again, we're reaching new all-time highs and blasting through them and making multiples of them. And the same people that were saying it's a bubble this past year are going to be saying then, it's a bubble, get out, don't put your money there. And sure, they may be technically correct in saying a bubble, but Bitcoin goes through these cycles of bubbles and busts, and it's all a symptom of the gradual onboarding of all these people into a new monetary standard, I believe, anyways. And I think if it's a bearish year, I'm fully prepared for that. I'm totally fine with that. Gives me more time to accumulate, first of all. But unless the code was fundamentally broken, I see no reason to give those people any credence in what they're saying. They're looking at the price and letting that dictate what they think of the project.
Yeah, and there's a naivete there. They weren't around in 2014, and they can't even read the history of that this has already happened, and people have already said these same things, and we've already been through this before. I mean, again, people out there, find your friendly veteran and talk to them. We're happy to tell you the stories of old and how people panicked and sold on the way down, and now that way down, it's laughable. I mean, that it was down to $300. Now, Bitcoin drops $300 in 2 seconds and no one thinks anything of it. I mean, the numbers that we're in now just are huge compared to the numbers of the old days when people were saying it was dead and that you were silly to buy it at $1,100. I wanted to quickly thank, as someone's about to say something, but let me just say, Rafterman sent $5. Thank you very much. I thought I liked altcoins, but when I purchased Bitcoin and put in a buy order of an altcoin, I think I never can pull that trigger. Well, that's good, dude. Stick with your Bitcoin. Don't waste it on treasure that Bitcoin. Don't spend it on an altcoin. Okay, someone was about to say something. I heard it.
Adam, I did want to say one thing. I recall almost exactly a year ago being on a show with you right around this time. And I won't mention the specific name, but there was a very special guest that jumped in randomly in the middle of a show.
Oh, yes.
and
It was,
and just
wow.
and just started piling on the FUD, being like, we need to get out, everybody get out, I've already sold a bunch of my Bitcoin, it's all downhill from here, was more or less what we heard. And I think it's just interesting seeing that pretty much exactly a year ago, and then looking at it now, and sure, we're down from all-time highs, but had that advice been heeded back then, well, you missed out on like an 8x gain. So
yeah, you know what? I want to thank you for reminding me about that legendary This Week in Bitcoin show. I think it was March the 17th, 2017. People go look back. That show actually lasted 2 hours, because the first hour we just had an awesome show with Ansel, Vortex, Benny, and myself. And then things got crazy because Vinny Lingham came onto my show. He had been watching the show and he came onto the show. So you guys can watch it. You can hear what he said. I know Vincent MGTOW is in the chat right now, and he got totally freaked out by what he heard on that show, and he ended up selling half his Bitcoin. There were many people who did that. And then Tone Vase came on the show. Blake Anderson came on. What a show! Everyone, maybe I'll link to that show below.
Adam, can
Yes.
I throw my thoughts of that show?
Yes, please.
That might have been one of the most terrifying nights of my life, and that's why there were so many people listening for 2 hours. Because the background, of course, was that the SEC had just said no to the ETF, and the price went from 1,300 to like 800. But then it rebounded all the way back to 1,300 or something like that, and everyone was feeling happy. And that's when it started. That's when Bitcoin Unlimited, when the attacks started, and it was a misery. The price was probably down about 1,000 or 900 at the time, and the whole world was on that show, desperate to get some redemption. And then Vinny Lingham, who I'm proud to say has blocked me from Twitter, came on and said the miners need $300 to squeeze the price and get it. And man, that was a seminal moment in Bitcoin history. That show was memorable forever.
Yeah, you guys have to check that out, because you could tell some people were worried during that. I mean, it was we hadn't been through that before. What was going on at that moment, because there was this fear of the fork coming. People did not understand. They thought that a fork from such a player as King of the Trolls could destroy Bitcoin. We did not know yet. And there was a lot of uncertainty. And it was an amazing show. I'm going to have to link. I'll add that to the show notes below, people. Wow, that was classic moment. And that probably was the best This Week in Bitcoin show ever, because just of you guys can watch it. When you look back on it, it was a classic. All right, so let's get everybody have their conclusionary remarks here, because we've hit the hour mark and I got to get out of here. Let's start with Cory. Anything that got left out you want to say? Anything sum up everything?
Nope. Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and we'll be having these conversations forever. And while everything changes so frequently, seems like nothing really changes at the same time. But I do want to say I look forward to seeing everyone in Denver for our event on April the 25th at Grid Collaborative Workspace. And until then, please tune in to the World Crypto Network iTunes stream. Thank you. Yes,
and I linked to the World Crypto Networks, and obviously you can hear. Maybe you're hearing me right now on that right now, so it's linked to below. Zack, you were freaking awesome today, man. We've been trying hard to get you on this show, and it was well worth the wait, man. And again, guys, thank you. This was a very hard show to schedule because I'm moving all around. Next week will be easier. But Zack, what are your final thoughts here?
No, thank you. This was a blast. I had a lot of fun. Honestly, Bcash is one of my least favorite things to talk about, but that was still a fun chat too. So good time all around. I guess the last remark I'll make, I wanted to tag something onto your comments about the noobs sort of grandstanding on Twitter about, oh, you should have sold here, Bitcoin's dead now, all this nonsense. And it's sort of ironic in a way that they're tweeting all of this on Twitter, where literally everything is archived when people have said those exact same things from 3 cents to $20,000. Like, you can go search Twitter and find all of those exact tweets. And some friends and I dig them up for fun sometimes. Like, it's laughable looking at the tweets that were sent out when it like crashed to $11 or crashed to $200 or something, crashed to $2,000, and seeing the exact same talking points, sometimes almost word for word, that people sort of give up hope and panic, and us hodlers, holders, whatever you want to call yourself, strong hands, it really doesn't make a difference because the price isn't what matters. So that's what I'll leave it on. Go look at, if you're worried about Bitcoin now, just do a little searching on Twitter, see people saying the same things that you've said before, and hopefully that'll alleviate some of your panic.
Everyone, pound that like button for Zack, man. He's been a great addition to the show today. All right, Andy, your conclusionary thoughts here.
Yes, put it this way. When you think about the fact that everyone's worried about a non-fundamental seller from Mt. Gox, like that's the big news story, selling because he has to and there's nothing wrong. And then you think about the fear for those of you around on March 17th on that call last year, let alone those of us, and yes, I was there, watching my funds at Mt. Gox go away. That's fear. What's going on today is just market movements that will just turn around and go back up at some point. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Bitcoin. It's never been stronger.
Awesome. And Benny, before I ask your conclusionary remarks, I want to just go back to that show a year ago. And again, it will be linked to below, but we not only did we do a 2-hour show, then after the show, we were talking, a few of us, the Canadian, you were drinking a beer, I remember. I actually was in Portugal, so it was super late for me. Tone was there. I mean, we were all talking so late because it was just, we did not know what was next. Everything was totally new then. And when now I look back on it, and it's a cool memory to think back to that night, how the show went 2 hours, and then we hung out afterwards. And now to see how much we've all grown since then, and how the world has changed since then, and how the prices went wild since then. And a lot can change in the year. And I got a big smile on my face just thinking about that night right now. It was a lot of you guys. Obviously, most people here do not know what goes on behind the scenes with these shows and everything. And that was like a totally behind the scenes night. I mean, there's actually something that happened to me that night that I actually cannot even say that happened. Anyway, it was great. There was lots of information being shared by lots of different people, by various means, maybe some phone calls some of us received, who knows. But Benny, what are your final thoughts here for that?
Yeah, I mean, that was a hell of a night. I had a blast. It was panicky at the time, but it's funny though, because you do look at the growth and almost like it feels like everybody since then is so much more battle hardened, because it was just a giant question mark at that point. What's going to happen? There's so much divisiveness between this. And we found out that anybody can split off anytime they please, and it doesn't matter. And Bitcoin continues to function regardless of how many forks there are. And it remains this kind of rock of the crypto space. And that's what I love it for. And people can use whatever they want, whatever kind of coin they want. And it's still the Wild West, but if there's anything that I put my faith in the crypto space, it is Bitcoin. And it's just been really cool to see the path that everybody that I've kind of gotten to know in the crypto space has taken over the past, I guess, couple years of doing my show. And I mean, yeah, we were mentioning about just the constant, the freakouts over the past crashes. And it reminds me of one of the early videos that I saw on Bitcoin. And it's a guy named Alex Miller in Vancouver, and it was a video called "You Don't Want to Buy Bitcoin Because It's Going to Crash," and he just goes through the chart over the various crashes. This one time Bitcoin went to $3, then it crashed to, and he does that over and over and over again for each successive one, each time it going up multiples and crashing back down to the previous all-time high. And it's a hilarious just poke at those people that always warn about the crashes, because it's just a matter of time versus versus panicking in those moments of weakness. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I'm super happy to continue to be a part of it. Do you mind if I do a quick little invite for anybody in Calgary that may be watching while I do my? Yeah, I was just going to say, anybody that's in Calgary, if you want to come down and chat crypto anytime, I work down in Kensington, nice area in Calgary. I work at Bit National, so feel free to come by and say hey. And there's an office in Vancouver as well, but swing by, say hey, chat crypto with us. We love it. So.
Dude, I can't wait to visit you in Calgary in July. There'll be more info about that in the future. I'll be hanging with you there. And I've always wanted to go to Alberta, and it'll be great to see Edmonton, Calgary. Who knows what I'm going to see out there.
And Vortex is going to be here too.
Oh, wow. We've got a lot to talk about in the future. And going back to the past, though, of a year ago, that was the night of the strong hand. If you made it through that night and you thought about it for like the next week or so, you really got a strong hand. That gave me the strongest of hands. It was from that moment forward. So we're gonna link to that video below. I'll do that in a second. But I want to thank all my guests again on this year anniversary of the Strong Hand Night. I didn't even realize it was. Remember, I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video. Check out the notes section below. Pound that like button with your real strong hand. And again, we do this every week, This Week in Bitcoin. I thank my guests, and I do post a new show here every single day. So thanks a lot. I'll say hi to you guys in the chat. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.